My God, you caught me. You caught me being not ready, as usual. There's still so much I want to do to get started, but I'm trying to get better about starting when I say I'm going to start. So it's just a couple of minutes after 12 noon. I said I was going to start at 12 noon. So here I am. I might need to make some adjustments. So hold on a sec. How's the sound? All right. I just had to adjust the fan so that I can breathe. Because with all these cool lights, I think it gets a little bit warm. Oh, and I didn't make sure that my chakra tower is all aligned. I think it is, isn't it? Very nice. It's nice when I don't have to make those adjustments. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to come on in. Oh, I've got one person. How are you? If you feel like saying hi, if it's safe, if you're not driving, or if you don't feel like saying hi, that's okay. But if you can let me know if you can hear me. 2 people. Woohoo. Yeah. And somebody hit the like button already, reminding me to hold up that cool thumb and say, please hit your like button. I've got a lot to talk about with you guys today. OMG. And what's going on over here with this little red light? Let's see if I can turn that a little bit so it's more mysterious looking, right? So you might have noticed in the thumbnail, the big E balancing forks and spoons on his finger. And his poor date was sitting there rocking back and forth. Fred Field, awesome. Nice to see you, sir. How are you? Thanks for coming in and thanks for saying hi. So is the sound good? Should I make any adjustments, do you think? I think my hat might be a little bit dark on my eyes. I can turn it around. Or I can try to find one of those hats that goes backwards, I've never known where to find those. Oh, here's one. Here's a backwards hat. It has the bill in the back instead of in the front. That's always been my joke. Oh, but now I'm like totally screwing it up. Because when you do stuff on your live, the mirror is like opposite of what you're thinking. So it really throws you off. So that's probably better, right? Then I'm not like hiding my eyes and maybe you can trust me. How was your weekend, Fred? And what do you think about the dinner at Bedminster on Friday night with the big E and the little T? And I don't know who's babysitting who. I don't know who's keeping who on a leash. It kind of seems to me like they don't trust each other and they're keeping each other in close range. I don't know. Maybe they're just keeping each other in close range because they love each other like Teletubbies, right? So I'll do my little disclaimer. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. And getting my glasses nice and shiny with my special eyeglasses cleaner. It gets all the way into the corners, which is cool. It's one of these fancy like static lint things a friend of mine gave me, a dear friend of mine, because my friends know how much I love to be able to see clearly, metaphorically as well as literally. And my glasses get super blurry. I've literally had to trim my eyelashes because they hit my glasses and they smudge them up immediately. Here, do Monday's cut for 4-day work week, Tuesday through Friday, but did not work last Saturday as option to make up for loss. Probably work every other Saturday. Well, I hope that, is that a way that you can not have a pay cut from having your hours cut? I hope. Fingers crossed. Because, yeah, that bites if you have to cut back on your expenses. I'd imagine that you're not a billionaire and you're not living that high on the hog and that, you don't have that many yachts and that many international properties, right? Nor do I. So we're in the same boat. Just plain old working folk, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Like I think it's a blessing, actually. I really do. I've been around a lot of super wealthy people, and I think in my opinion, a lot of times it destroys people, destroys their lives, especially people that are like regular and then they like win the lottery. A lot of people who win the lottery end up deceased like within 12 months. And it's usually like a friend or a family member. Sometimes it's self. They also often end up broke because when you win the lottery, you tend to do things like buy yachts and international properties. And then, paying the bills becomes really challenging. So there's a lot of predators that take advantage of lottery winners. So anyway, we're not here to talk about that. I guess maybe we are. I mean, the big E, he grew up rich. Little T, he grew up wealthy too, but they also both seem to have trouble keeping up with the bills, and they both seem to be trying to cash in on every freaking lottery type of money that they can. Still be lower pay, but sats or $3 more per hour just for. Well, my goodness, Fred, I'm so sorry. And I know this crap that they're saying from the Little T administration that, people won't miss a Social Security check if it's late. I don't know. I guess they live on Billionaire Planet, but yeah, people will notice right away when like things bounce from their bank account on day one because they have automatic auto pay set up and such. And then they went on to say that anybody who complains, we know is a fraudster because only the fraudsters will complain. So they're trying to, as stupid as that sounds and as fake as that sounds, we know it is, they're trying to inject fear into anybody who has a desire to complain. That's what I think is going on. So please make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, consider it. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my stuff, and turn on your notification bell to ring a ding ding. I've got my cool Dark Side of the Moon mug today because, outer space is where it's at. We're all going to be going to Mars. We're going to rip this popsicle stand of a planet. And we're going to have our besties, R2-D2 and C3PO, and we're not going to need anybody. So there. We're going to have like 50 robots. So, oh my goodness. I could go on and on. One sec. I mean, am I doing stand-up or am I doing sit-down? I think I'm doing sit-down. So some of the things I want to talk about today are super duper serious. So I do think it's good to try to throw some humor in there. And I am venturing out with my color scheme today. I'm so often in all black. Today I have black and brown. And the hat is like a dark gray. My safety colors, charcoal gray and black. And it's really hard for me to venture out to brown or navy blue or anything else when I'm on camera. In real life, I do venture out, but those are my favorite colors. Navy blue, black, and charcoal gray. Charcoal gray might be my favorite. I don't know. It changes, right? I still haven't had enough coffee. I've only had 1 cup. Forgive me. I know it is 12 noon. The normal me cuts myself off from coffee after 12 noon, but that's when I'm waking up at 6. Fortunately, I did not wake up at 6 this morning. And I tend to not wake up at 6 on most mornings these days since I don't have to. Anyway, the Fight Oligarchy tour that Bernie Sanders and AOC went on this weekend in particular, they've been on it, I think, for a few days. Bernie started his Fight Oligarchy tour a few weeks ago. He started in, I think it was Oklahoma City or somewhere in Oklahoma. No, maybe it was Omaha, Nebraska. Bernie started his Fight Oligarchy tour a couple weeks ago in Omaha, Nebraska. And then he went to, I think, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, maybe. And there were no other cities or states named, but I think they're just kind of plotting it as they go. So this past weekend, I know they went to Arizona, and I forget where else, but I think it was the one in Arizona that Bernie said was the largest crowd they've ever had, the largest crowd he's ever had in all of his campaigning when he's run for president or anything else. They estimated that it was about 34,000. And I think that they're probably not going to inflate their numbers because there's no reason to do that unless if you're like a whiny little pinhead and you have to pay people to show up at your rallies and then they leave early. And so you have to accuse the other side of bussing people in and paying them. Everything that little t and big E accuse everyone of and point the finger and say, look over there. The things that they come up with that they're accusing people of, I believe, are the things that they're doing. That's pretty much the way gaslighters operate. So it's confession and projection, everything they accuse folks of. So right now, currently, they've determined that anybody who does something to a Tesla is a terrorist. So that way, I think that the big E can file his insurance claims for a lot more money, and they can prosecute these people a lot heftier. But yet, you know, they gave a pass, little t gave a pass to 1,600 insurrectionists who are domestic terrorists, in my opinion. So, and he's a domestic terrorist, in my opinion, and so is the big E. So it's a really divisive issue. You know, there's people on both sides of the fence and or both sides. Let's just say both sides. I don't know that anybody's really on the fence anymore. And it just shouldn't be so divisive. I mean, we have a lot in common, the two political parties, let's just call them. And I guess people try to come up with a third political party all the time. I'm all for that. I think that there should be at least three, if not more. For a couple of decades, it has felt to me like it's not really a free society with the limit of just two parties. But two's better than one, right? So it's really frightening. It feels like we're headed barreling down the mountain, like, you know, snowballing or railroad off the tracks, out of control, headed straight for a fascist regime. Feels like that. And people like me, whether we have a YouTube channel or not, people that criticize or, you know, say derogatory things are going to get censored. And worse, we might get sent to Guantanamo Bay or El Salvador or whatever. You know, they can just say, well, we thought you were a domestic terrorist because, you know, you wore your hat backwards, right? So, I mean, I'm not speaking in hyperbole. I'm speaking in all seriousness. So to me, it feels more and more imminent and just like a mandate to be discussing politics as my true crime on my true crime channel. So there's a lot going on right now with the Micah Miller case. Did you guys know that the Christopher Skinner passing away, you know, the guy in the wheelchair, the husband of JP's girlfriend, his investigation of his quote unquote accidental death, drowning in the swimming pool in his wheelchair, that case is being reopened, that there's been new evidence that has caused the case to reopen. At least that's what Fitz News says. And they're usually first with these things. I don't know if they're local. You know, I think local people, you know, I Googled it, of course, because, you know, I Google everything. And it was just like local news outlets that had that information. So my guess is that's going to sweep across true crime in the next day or two. Similar to what happened last week with the Idaho 4 and the dump of all of the documents. They keep dumping documents in that case. They started dumping documents 2 years ago on this case that there's supposed to be like a gag order on. Like, why do you keep dumping documents on a case that, like, are you trying to taint the jury? Are you trying to make it so that there's no possibility of a fair trial? I don't know. That case is just so whack to me. And I think that there's a handful of us that don't trust the photograph that came out at the end of last week. The alleged selfie that Kohberger, it's a picture of Kohberger in what looks like a bathroom with the shower behind him. You see the curtain rod. You see a little bit of the curtain maybe in the corner. And there's like tile behind him that's like kind of the color of vomit and kind of the color of his skin. And he's got his pencil neck and his shirt buttoned all the way up with no tie. And he's got this weird smile with these weird laugh lines, and his nose is just horrible. It's like a beak, like 2 or 3 times the size of what it normally looks like in photographs. He's got a nose. He's got a very distinctive profile, a very prominent nose that sometimes looks fine and other times it looks a little awkward, but in this picture it looks downright disgusting. And then he's doing this, like, and allegedly this is a selfie taken, they say like 2 hours after what he went back there to look for his sheath, but the morning after the quadruple homicide that I don't believe he committed. And I don't know if you can hear my dogs playing with their squeaky toys in the background. If you can, I apologize. I'll try not to let it distract me. Jackie Bushable, hello, hello. How are you, my dear? Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in, you guys. So the Kohberger thing, that photograph, there are a few people that also think that that photograph is very suspicious. You know, when I look at it, because I do a lot of manipulation with my screenshots that I take to make my community posts and my thumbnails. And I like playing around with it. So I do all kinds of things, playing with just how you can change so much just by changing the filter, because some things will be more distinctive and other things will look invisible depending on which filter you use. Like, that's just an easy basic one, but you can blur things out. You can superimpose things. I'm not that fancy with my skill set, but in my opinion, looking at that photograph of the criminal defendant in the Idaho 4 case, the background just doesn't look right. To me, the person in the photograph looks like it's pasted onto the background. So that's my opinion, and I'm going to stick to it because I'm convinced that that photograph is bogus. But even if it wasn't bogus, just the timing of them releasing it. Like, why are they suddenly releasing this selfie? We got to ask ourselves these questions. What side put BK selfie out? Good question. I think people are starting to ask this question, and I don't know the answer. Do you know the answer? I would think the prosecution. I wouldn't think the defense would put a photograph out like that. My goodness. For all we know, it's News Nation or Gigi from Arkansas, which are kind of one and the same sort of. Not just to make him look guilty, but to make him look so cold. And then with those black AirPods in, and his hair looks much darker than it does in most pictures, it looks like he's like Dracula. All he needs is the fangs, a few drops of the red stuff, and then the black collar that comes up and out like that. I mean, does he not look like Dracula with the black AirPods? I have AirPods and I never know what to call them, like earbuds or AirPods. I guess the AirPods is the brand. And I got to just say, like, they're cool to have. I like using them, but they suck. Like, there's a lot of problems with them. So that's just part of it. Anyway, mine are white and his are black and they're bigger. Mine aren't that new. They're a couple of years old, but they're a lot smaller than the big black ones he has in. Like, why would he be taking a picture of himself with his stupid black AirPods in? Why would he have his shirt buttoned up for his pencil neck? Why would he be smirking like that? Why would he want a photograph with an extra shiny spot on his extra long beak? I'm not buying it. I don't think that that's real. I mean, I think it's a real image, but I don't think it's a real selfie. I don't think it's authentic. There we go. Almost feminine. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Well, yeah, I think that the goal has always been, with even before the arrest, saying that he was an incel, saying that he was vegan, just trying to create this character that no one would have any compassion for, that no one would be able to relate to, because not that many people are abstinent from sexual gratification. And not that many people are abstinent from eating any animal products. I mean, and the two of those things combined could like create a lot of rage and pent up frustration building up. I think for anybody, even if they love that lifestyle. So I think that's really interesting, Jackie, to say that almost feminine too. Almost feminine in your opinion. Really good point. I'll have to relook at it. But yeah, like there's just such a limited number of photographs of him, and most photographs of him, he looks dystopian. That's the word that comes to my mind for that photograph, and at least more than half of all of them. He looks dysphoric. Things are like disproportionate, like his head usually looks disproportionately big. And sure, that can happen just with a camera angle. It's amazing how much a camera angle can change. Like, see how big my shoulder looks on this side? And then if I turn, then that one looks huge, because it's probably a little bit closer. I don't know. It's weird though. Anyway, it's easy to create optical illusions like that. And yeah, and when you have a big nose with the fisheye of the camera, even if you don't have a big nose, a lot of noses look a lot bigger because your nose is just a little bit closer to the camera. So it really can emphasize and highlight that. But then there's a lot of cameras that have filters built in. I don't think this one has it, but it might, because my nose doesn't look that big. But a lot of them give you like a little elf on a shelf type of nose. I mean, my really expensive laptop, the gaming computer, did that. It gave me a little pointy nose, and I thought it was cute. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get a nose like that in real life. But then other times these cameras, especially like your cell phone, can just make you look really bad with that in particular, the nose problem. Anyway, now that I'm done picking my nose, let's talk about something else. Yeah, the fighting the oligarchy. It's real. It is real. And that poor woman I started to talk about that was eating dinner with Elon, or she was sitting next to him at the table, so she kind of looks like she's his date. And if you've seen the video, I'll put a link to it in the description. She's literally rocking back and forth the entire duration of any video that I saw of him. And he's got a couple of spoons and maybe a fork or two, creating this like geometric ball, kind of looking like an asterisk. And then he's balancing it on his finger, obviously trying to get everybody's attention. And then he like holds it up higher, like he's not getting enough attention. Trump is just, I'm sorry, little T is just a couple feet away from him, but out of the frame, because all of the videos that I've seen of it are cell phone videos. So they're tall and skinny. And some of them pan over to little T and then back to big E. But if E and T are both in the frame at the same time, you can't see his toy that he's showing off. And The Bulwark is a really good political channel that I enjoy. And I had to watch this video this morning because they were referring to the same incident that happened on Friday night that ties into something bigger. That Big E is the guy at the party wearing the lampshade on his head. And I was just like, OMG, that's hilarious. Like, yeah, he's got nothing to say, but he's trying to be the center of attention. It's exactly. But I think he was trying to stand out. I think he was trying to go viral, basically. And I'll tell you why in my big conspiracy theory, my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. Hello, Annabise, my dear. How are you? And I'm assuming you got your Roku heart. Yes, if you've made it to your P.O. box yet. And yeah, they haven't canceled the U.S. Postal Service yet that I know of. They're probably working on it. Have you heard who's dating Tiger Woods? You better sit down if you haven't. I have, Jackie Bushable. And it's disgusting. Isn't it Don Jr.'s ex-wife? I forget her name. I did get it. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, my dear. That was awesome. So yeah, did I get it right? I know it's one of the little T's son's ex-girlfriends or wife. Is it the Gilliford one? Is it that one? I mean, these people are so insane. And remember, were you here when I shared with you guys that Heather Locklear is indirectly related to little T? And you could almost see like a family resemblance. Again, maybe the nose, but they're indirectly related, not by blood. Her mom, I think, is sisters with Marla Maples. So Marla Maples' mother is Heather Locklear's grandmother. And as we all know, most of us know, Trump little T doesn't remember, that Marla Maples and he were married for about maybe a year and a half. I think they were together for a lot longer. Yeah. Donnie Jr., DJ. You got JD. They should call Donnie Jr. DJ just to confuse us all. DJ and JD, like which is which. Oh, and then did you hear that Vance's wife is being sent to Greenland to try to convince them to be the 52nd state or something like that? Like, I don't think this stuff is even serious, but you do have to keep an open mind that even if it's not serious, there's always a possibility of things getting wonky. I think it's another distraction tactic, just like the whole thing with the Gulf of Mexico. OMG, I'm definitely going to get censored now. DJ it is. Yeah. So isn't his ex's name I want to say like Catherine Guilford or something like that, but I might be crossing my wires. That might be somebody else entirely different. Anyway, those boys are so disgusting. All of those boys, little T, little DJ, and little E, and then you got the big E. All four of them are so disgusting. And Tiffany, she's really gross too. I actually think that Ivanka seems very reasonable. She seems like she has a very good head on her shoulders. If you remember, she was contacting her father numerous times throughout the day on the day of the January 6th insurrection. She was begging him to tell people to stop. And it's my understanding that she hasn't spoken with him much since then. Late, but hello to Jazz and all in chat. So, the other thing to remember, so that dinner party incident with the silverware trick that the Big E pulled off, for all we know, the damn thing was super glued together, but who cares either way. They were at Bedminster in New Jersey at the big golf course country club that Little T owns, where he buried Ivana. Ivana is buried in the freaking dirt at Bedminster. I don't think she even has a tombstone. There's not flowers there. It's not manicured. It's not even like landscaped. The photos that I've seen, it's insane. It's completely insane. So I have a conspiracy theory that they were there because it wasn't just the Big E and the Little T. It was the whole troop. Caroline with a K was there. She was pretending to be interested in the fork thing that the Big E built and was playing with, trying to get everybody to look. That was Friday night. So you guys, I'm sure, all know who was found deceased at their home on Saturday morning. I would imagine everybody has heard, even if they haven't really paid attention and don't really know the significance of it. And that is Jessica Aber, A-B-E-R. Jessica Aber was 43 years old. I was going to read you something from the interwebs. Where did my phone go? She was 43 years old. She was a federal judge for Eastern Virginia, appointed by Biden, and she resigned on Inauguration Day, which is typical. That's nothing special. When one president assigns you, you usually resign or get resigned when the incoming is sworn in. So she did that. And she worked a lot on domestic terrorist cases. She specifically prosecuted some people from the country that PP is from. I think 4 of them. She specifically prosecuted a gang member with like the multiple sclerosis initials, and then the sweet teen after that. I just don't want to say these things because I don't want the algorithm to catch it. So, the multiple sclerosis initials combined with that sweet teenager number, she successfully prosecuted 1 or maybe 4 from that. There were 4 of the people from the country that PP is from. And then she was the specialist. She supervised a whole team that was I believe, if I read it right, that was prosecuting people from PP's country that were war criminals in Ukraine, you guys. And then she just happens to pass away naturally, self-induced, accidentally. That's kind of my thing. I made that up myself for anyone who wonders. It's, passed away from natural, self-induced, accidental causes. Take your pick. So I wanted to read to you, if I can blow this up. It's all small. Let me see. Can I? Yeah. So this is something that is from August 19th of 2024. And this is a letter from some congressman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 13 congressmen. So let me read this out loud to you. And it's, like I said, it's dated this last year, August 19th. Self-induced. Yeah, and self-induced is, I changed it. I used to say self-inflicted. I changed it to self-induced because of Micah Miller, because that was the phrase that JP used when he made the announcement in his sermon. That was a really weird word choice, in my opinion. Again, confessing or projecting. So this is from last August. Dear U.S. Attorney Aber, it has come to our attention that the two Jordanian aliens who were in the country illegally and attempted to gain access to Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia have been released per conditions requested by your office. The release of these two illegal aliens is egregious, especially in light of recent reports which state that one of the aliens was on a terror watch list. In early May, Hassan Yosef Hamdan, who is on a terror watch list, and Mohammed Kahir Debo attempted to enter the Marine Corps base, with Mr. Hamdan claiming he was an Amazon delivery man. When they were stopped by base security, Hamdan tried to drive the truck into the base, but was stopped by the deployment of vehicle denial barriers. The pair were then arrested and handed over to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for detention due to their immigration statuses. I'm going to keep reading, but I just want to ask you guys to remind me when I'm done with this, if I forget, that I really want to talk to you guys about cryptocurrency and how that ties in with all this too. Subsequently, the two illegal aliens were allowed to post bail and were released from federal custody in June. The pair were released despite not only their statuses as illegal aliens who are subject to removal, but also their having trespassed on a U.S. military installation, an act which is potentially connected to current or future terrorist activity. I don't know if I should say that word. It puts me in the algorithm. Furthermore, their release was conditioned on a promise to appear in court at a future date, despite the fact that a large number of illegal aliens released with similar agreements never attended their future court proceedings. It is clear now that this administration values the desires of illegal aliens, including those who intend to commit acts of terror, over the safety of American citizens. Not only does this administration allow suspected terrorists to cross the southwest border and parole them into the country, but even when those same individuals engage in potential terrorist activity, this administration continues to release them into the country based simply on promises to reappear at court hearings. I'll catch up with your guys' comments in a second. I'm almost done with this. The American people are tired of the recklessness of this administration's border and immigration policies and demand that illegal aliens who commit crimes be detained and held accountable. Please provide answers to the following questions on this matter by August 31st, 2024. And there's a list of a handful of questions. 1, does your office believe that Hamdan and Debo pose any threat to American citizens in light of their criminal conduct and the location in which it occurred? 2, what factors does your office consider when determining if an illegal alien who has committed a crime should be released on bail? 3, how did the fact that Mr. Hamdan was on a terror watch list change your office's consideration of whether to release him on bail? 4, do you believe it is wise to release illegal aliens who are on terrorist watch lists into the country, especially after they attempt to illegally gain access to a U.S. military installation? That was number 4. So 5, was the judge in this case aware that Mr. Hamdan was on a terror watch list? Number 6, it's their job to know, so she knew or should have known. How does the possibility of that how does the possibility that the conduct in question might stem from terrorist motives change your office's consideration of whether to release a charged illegal alien? 7, is it reasonable to infer that the release of these 2 men means your office does not believe they intended to engage in terrorist activity? 8, did your office communicate with ICE officials or Marine Corps personnel about the potential motives of the 2 men? 9, what level of potential terrorist activity is sufficient for your office to deny releasing an illegal alien from custody? And 10, is it possible that these 2 men were testing out the security of the base to plan for future attack, similar to how the 9/11 hijackers flew multiple flights with box cutters to test airport security before planning their act of error with a T? We look forward to your timely response. So, to me, them's fighting words. That's a very accusatory letter. And that's obviously to put her on notice and to make a paper trail of basically their accusations that they're accusing her of supporting terrorists with a T and not being committed to the safety of American citizens, which that's pretty huge. I mean, that's pretty huge. So to me, that sounds like a declaration of war if they weren't already in a war against her. And this is signed by 13 congressmen, none of them women, I don't think. I could look again to be sure. But she's a girl and they're boys. And so there's that. It seems like a lot of these situations, like say with AOC or Jasmine Crockett, they're not just girls, but they're also people of color. And then they get attacked by white guys. And then somebody like Bernie Sanders, who's also a white guy, he doesn't get attacked. I mean, he's got a lot of street cred, probably even amongst the Republicans, because that man is as solid as they come. So let me catch up with you guys, and then I'm going to remember to talk about the cryptocurrency, because that's huge. That's a huge part of it. She was also in charge of busting crap with that. And who's into cryptocurrency? Not just the Tate brothers, but the guy who got them into this country and that guy's right-hand man. Self-induced fatality. My oldest is taking 6 meds for blood pressure. Where are the docs in the responsibility to what they are prescribed? So yeah, this woman, Jessica Aber, was 43. They're saying that she had a chronic medical condition. It's entirely possible. Even if it was natural, self-induced and or accidental, I still think that all of the weight of her political wars are just as pertinent and just as potent. But the fact that the big E was basically at the dinner party with a lampshade on his head tells me that they wanted to make sure that everybody knew that they were at a dinner party hundreds of miles away from the DC area, which is where Jessica Aber lived and where she was found Saturday morning at about 9 o'clock. If they don't explain to stop taking prior medication, you have a lawsuit. Yeah, it's really important to not mix some medications. He's in the worst state of wellness he's ever been in. I told him to go to a different doctor. I'm so sorry, Christine. That's awful. Yeah, definitely. You know, I switched doctors about 5 years ago, and it made all the difference in the world. And I liked my doctor, but she was about to have her first baby, and she was just distracted. She was very distracted. So they were missing things that the new doctor caught right away. So yeah, I recommend that too. It's hard to find a good doctor, and a good doctor that's not distracted, because my old doctor was good until she was understandably distracted. I mean, I've never held it against her. I did, however, hold it against her staff, because they should have caught the things that she was missing, you know, like her nurse practitioner, her general nurse manager, and those folks. Good morning, Christine. You have to be your own medical advocate these days. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be on top of it. It can be very challenging. But yeah, our health and our wellness is really all we've got. And we've got to stay on top of that 100%. One sec. I'm going to try to finish this coffee if I can. Are you ready? I'm going to do my best. Cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about that. There's a lot to do with the cryptocurrency with Jessica Aber and shenanigans, and things will only get worse under this administration with our healthcare. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's without another pandemic or a poisoning of our water system or a poisoning, you know, poisonous gases. It's entirely possible that Jessica Aber could have been poisoned. If it was anything to do with the country of PP and her prosecutions there, that's kind of their signature these days, is the poison, right? But also, you can administer poison to a person either with, this might sound a little conspiracy, like either with a poison dart, or you can even just put it right in their coffee. That will not only give them a fatal heart attack, it will also clear through their system so quickly that it can't be detected in an autopsy, is what I've learned. I mean, I've learned that just from looking online. So, you know, you have to dig. There's no place that will just come straight out and tell you that. But that's what it appears to be. Because I'm not a spy, so I don't know these things for sure. I can only spy as well as Google instructions could be. I'm so happy my tulips are out of the ground by 2 inches. Yay, spring. I have so many tulips, Christine. I'm so excited. So far, only the crocuses and the daffodils have come up. But yeah, actually, no, there's a few others that I'm not sure the names of. I think one of them is like an astrid or something like that. But yeah, I've got a lot of stuff planted in the garden, especially the front yard. And my mom was the one who started the gardens. So as soon as the flowers start blooming, I'm thinking of my mama, especially the daffodils, because those are her favorite flower. And Annabee says, okay, oh, I'm sure that's possible. My daffodils have bloomed. Yeah, so daffodils are just like a sign of hope and a sign of spring. They're usually the first to bloom, other than the tiny little baby crocuses. And they are very exciting. They're so bold in their yellow, or unless you have the really light ones. And then the little teeny ones are adorable too. The little tiny, I love them all. I love tulips though. Like, I'm a tulip girl for sure. I love peonies and roses, but I'd say peonies and tulips are some of my favorites. I'm trying to think of some of my other favorites. Flowers are just phenomenal. My grandmother was an avid gardener, And she grew a lot of flowers in addition to tons of vegetables and watermelon and everything else under the sun. And then my mom grew tons of flowers and just a little bit of like herbs and basil and tomatoes. So I've only had success with keeping the flowers going. No, I did. I take that back. I grew some carrots a couple years ago, and they were literally like the most delicious carrots I ever grew or ever had. They were the only ones I grew. I'm not a gardener, but I try. I kind of picked up where my mom left off, and then, I was able to like use her as a resource with any questions. Because really, the way I started gardening, for anybody who doesn't garden that might be interested, the way I fell into it and got totally hooked and totally addicted and love it is just by weeding, because you have to weed to keep anything that's in your garden, to keep it going. You have to weed so that they don't get drowned out and, basically just overrun. And then once you start weeding, you just start getting into it. If you've got a knack for it. And I never had a knack for it until my mother could no longer do the work that she always did at my house. And then I had to, because I wanted to see all the beautiful flowers that she had planted, and I couldn't see them because of all the weeds. And then I had no idea how much fun weeding is. It's very satisfying, and it's good exercise too. And just being outside and being really in touch with the weather changes and the weather patterns and the sun coming up and the sun going down. It's the best, isn't it? Okay, I got my caffeine in me. I should be able to do more better. And we're getting close to an hour in. So Anna B says, I love tulips too, but I don't have any. So what I did, because I don't think my mom planted tulips, and I love them so much, but what I did a few years ago, I literally bought hundreds of bulbs from Costco. And you have to put them in, I can't remember how many inches, but pretty deep, like maybe like 4 to 6 inches. And it'll always tell you on the package, like how deep they need to go and how many need to be planted together, and how far apart they need to be, all that stuff. Those are the important things. How much sun they need. That's also super important, like deciding where you're going to put them. And so a friend of mine loaned me like a hand drill that would drill as deep as I needed to go for the tulips. So it like only took a second for each one. Whereas if I was doing that by hand, it would have been really hard to plant hundreds. But I did that probably 5 years ago. I think it was like the year before COVID. It was when my mom was still living, but not able to garden. So again, any questions that I had, I could take to her and she could answer them. So I didn't need to look things up. It was pretty cool. And those tulips, they come back again and again and again. I don't know how many times tulips come back before they stop. But obviously those are called the perennials, the ones that return. And then the others are called annuals. And those only last the one season. So I like planting perennials because then I know that they'll be back again and again. And as you guys might know, I spent hours upon hours last week just cleaning up the gardens in the front and side yards, and literally had 10 of those giant bags of leaves for mulch that I then took to the flower farm and dumped them so I can reuse them. Did I say 10? 3 sets of 10. I had 30 bags, 30 bags stuffed full of leaves, because I think I forgot to do it last year. I think I was just really busy YouTubing, and what else did I have going on? Last year was when Coco first got her cancer, so we were dealing with that too. So she's doing very well. Okay, twice the height of the bulb? What? that would mean that they have to go like 16 inches down. I don't remember them having to go that deep, but they did have to go pretty deep. So yeah, maybe like 8 inches. I don't know. We could Google it. Tulips will revert and change color once they are older. Oh my goodness. I planted like every color under the sun. Like I said, I was buying them in bulk at Costco. Costco has a lot of good gardening stuff, and I love Costco. Absolutely love Costco. So high quality and good deals. So where are we at? Today's the 24th. I did a video on the 22nd on Saturday. So I haven't done one since then. I've done my yoga videos, but I think both of them came out with no sound. So I put in the notes that you'd have to play the instructions only with it if you were trying to get visual cues as well as audio cues on what to do next for the practice. I don't know how that happened, but that was annoying. And I'm glad I caught it because at first I didn't. Anyway, so I didn't do a true crime video yesterday and there was so much going on, but I've got all my notes from the weekend. So yeah, the thing I was saying about the errorist attacks with a T, calling the Tesla vandals that, right? That takes it to a whole new level, both in terms of prosecution and in terms of insurance recovery. So we don't know. I think a couple of people have been arrested for doing those types of things, but I found it really stupid that somebody who claims to be as wise as the big E claims that he is was automatically saying that had to be the Democrats that were doing this. And I really want to say this too, because I've only heard one other channel talking about this, but I'm sure others have. That he said something like, oh, the Democrats are supposed to be the party of compassion and caring, and yet they're doing these horrible, violent things. And it's just like, you don't know that it's them. You just don't know. It could be anybody. It could be people from your own company who are mad at you. It could be people from Twitter that you fired that are mad at you. I mean, what are the possibilities of that? I'd say pretty high. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with politics. It could just be that they don't like him and that they voted for the guy that he's attached at the hip with, and that they're mad as F that he's destroying everything, destroying the party. I don't know. But the other thing that really gets me about that is saying that Democrats are supposed to be compassionate and caring implies, and I know it's the implication, that Republicans are not compassionate and don't care. and I know that politically, it's like the libs are considered the bleeding hearts and the Republicans are the ones who just like don't care. I got mine, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, when most of these people, like the big E and the little T, they never had bootstraps. They had big daddies that took care of their heinies. So, they love to insult other people whose parents weren't as wealthy as theirs and act like they're superior. Oh, because they are. Yeah, it's a fact. Not. Anyway, I just thought it was so disdainful to put not only the Democrats in this light of, oh, you're supposed to be kind and caring and you're so unkind and uncaring, but then to like at the same time, simultaneously, probably without even intending to, saying that, Republicans are cold-hearted bastards and that's fine. That's part of the deal. It's like, because I don't think that that's true. I know that financially, Republicans don't want to put money into things like welfare, and that financially Democrats do want to put money into social services. And when I worked in social services in King County in downtown Seattle, working there, seeing it up close, really made me agree with the Republican side of that perspective, because I saw a lot of waste. I saw pure waste. I saw fraud. I saw lies. I was disgusted. But that doesn't mean that all of it is fraudulent. Like that department, that office, it was CASA, it was the Court Appointed Special Advocate's Office, that started in King County and is in every county across our country. But the first one was right there in King County in the Superior Court. And they closed themselves. They made themselves obsolete from what happened during my tenure there and the lawsuit that I subsequently filed against them. They don't exist anymore in the public sector. They went private after that. And they're probably, I don't even know, I haven't kept up if they're still public in all the other counties and just private in King County. I don't know. But my point is that it doesn't necessarily mean that people are mean because they're Republicans and they're sweet because they're Democrats. Like, no, like everybody that worked in that office was a Democrat, and they were all jack arses, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. They were complete doofuses. They were absolute idiots, and they were completely sucking off the system. It was really bad. And they shot themselves in the foot. That's what happens when you bring somebody in new and you don't know that they're going to comply with your corruption, right? You got to make sure that someone's going to comply with your corruption before you hire them. But I guess you could say I was a whistleblower in that case. And that's another question that people are asking with this Jessica Aber. Is she a whistleblower? My guess is yes. My guess is that she knew too much. But really, my suspicion is mostly around the country where PP comes from. That's a person, not a thing. That she had to go because she stepped on some toes. That's just my opinion. We'll see. It's really early. They say that there's no evidence of any foul play. They say that it's apparent that she passed away from a chronic medical condition. They say that it's under investigation. But again, they said those things so quickly. It's like, give it a rest. Just give it a few days. Like, wait a week and then say those things, and they'll be a lot more believable. When you say them too quick, I'm sure if it wasn't him himself, it was probably one of his enemies. Hey, Sherry Irvin. Is it Urban? Do you pronounce the V like a B? That's if it's Spanish, but I don't know. Sherry Irvin, right? Anyway, you've been here forever, and I'm still asking you how I pronounce it. I remember asking you a year or two ago, and you told me. So lovely to see you. So what else do I have here in my notes? The setting the fires to the Teslas. And remember, this year started with a Tesla blowing up in Las Vegas in front of a little T tower, right? That Cybertruck that exploded with a guy in it, with a military man. I think he was Army, Matthew Leivelsberger. He was active duty, living in Germany. He was on leave. He was here. He rented the Cybertruck. He rented the Cybertruck from the same app that the guy down there in New Orleans, rented his white pickup truck when he rammed into a bunch of people on New Year's Eve in the wee hours in the morning. And was that an F-150? I hadn't even thought of that, because, that's like the signature car of the MAGA. That's like the MAGA machine is the Ford F-150. And so was that white pickup truck that guy rented, was that an F-150? That would be weird. That'd be really weird. I could look it up, but I'm not going to look it up right now. If you guys want to look it up and let me know in the chat, that's cool. So Yeah, taking Jackie Robinson out of the archived documents in our government systems accidentally. I think I talked about that in the last video that I did, but that is just so crazy. And when they say accidentally, it's hard to believe that it's truly an accident, right? The radical left lunatics, yeah, they're the ones destroying all the Cybertrucks. So it's kind of funny that the year started with that Cybertruck getting blown up by Matthew Leibelsberger or somebody else with him in it, allegedly. You know, that was such a weird, like high profile, like combining the big E and the little T and their products. And it seemed to me so contrived and so much like a advertisement of sorts, and that it backfired and they quit talking about it. That's insane. You can't do that. Let the dogs in. Come on in, Coco. Hey, baby. She loves to sit by me. I'm like her protector. Even though I'm the one who took her to all of her cancer treatments and I'm the one to put medication on her wound, and she hates that, she still loves me. She still trusts me. I'm still her person. And I wasn't her person before the cancer. My oldest daughter was her person, and then my husband was her person. But now I'm her person. So she's in here. She's gonna snooze over there. She just likes to feel secure. So much like a fake assassination. I like that word, Annabise. Yeah, the thing with the Cybertruck and the hotel, the tower. And I'm curious what you were saying. That's insane. You can't do that. What you were referring to, if you don't mind saying, I'd appreciate it because I'm curious and missing it. So yeah, the fake assassination attempt. That is a very good word. Okay. And I want to talk about Kylie Rodney's case too, because nothing ever comes up with that case because they are just trying to forget about that. That girl just drowned with no water in her lungs. She was just driving crazy because, you know, she's a girl and girls are crazy. And especially when it comes to driving. No. That's not what happened. Another thing, Aber. Another thing that Jessica Aber is very well known for in her career is trying to rebuild the trust in the communities all over the state of Virginia with citizens and law enforcement. And I think that's very admirable because, yeah, I'm of that same school of thought that it's imperative that people trust their law enforcement. And it's really hard to when you have departments like the Moscow PD and the Pullman PD and the Wazoo PD and the people in law enforcement down there in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and the law enforcement up there in North Carolina. So freaking corrupt, and you have to be able to trust your law enforcement or you can't use them. But the erosion of trust is really the theme of MAGA, in my opinion. You can't trust anything but MAGA. Like, what? That's where it becomes like a cult. It's like you can't just trust someone because they say they're MAGA, or you can't just trust someone because they're law enforcement. You have to build trust. You have to establish trust. So yeah, the war crimes, the building trust with law enforcement, the war crimes. I'm just thinking that girl, Jessica Aber, knew too much. But Oh, the Jackie Robinson thing. Yeah, yeah, that's what you were saying, that's insane. You can't do that. Well, and it's just so sad. It's like, it's so much hate. They hate people that aren't white. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's disgusting. It's just stupid. That's so insane. It's so freaking crazy. I'm okay. I don't trust anyone. LOL. I like that, Annabise. I'm kind of the same way. You know, my husband and I, we were together since like 1992. We got married in 92. We've been together since 90. So wasn't it about 92 that the X-Files started? And one of their things at the beginning is trust no one. And that was like our show. And that was like our theme. That was kind of our code. Trust no one. We trusted each other, and that was it. And our cats, because we had a lot of cats. I had one cat when I met him, and then my cat had babies, and we kept one of her babies. So we had two cats. And then he wanted to get this third cat, which I thought was crazy. Like, why would we need a third cat? And that cat was an Abyssinian, and that cat was the best thing that ever happened to me. Other than my husband and my kids, of course. But yeah, I've wanted another Abyssinian ever since Pepe Le Pew passed away. Pepe Le Pew is definitely a spy. I've got to tell you that. Absolutely. Pepe Le Pew was like sending out notes and letters and emails and voicemails when we weren't home. He was getting busy. And he wore a little beret, and he smoked a cigarette with a long thing on it. And he had his little mustache, and he painted. If you guys know an Abyssinian cat, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know an Abyssinian cat, you're like, what is she talking about? So Abyssinians are the cats that the Egyptians thought were going to take over the world. They're also, what rings a bell for a lot of people that don't know Abyssinians is that My Favorite Martian, that TV show, the cat that was from outer space was an Abyssinian. And yeah, they are definitely aliens that are definitely going to take over the world. For sure. Don't tell Elon, right? He'll have to like take them all out because they're competition. I mean, I can't help but think that Elon and T and PP, they're all just like plankton in SpongeBob. Like they're all just trying to take over the world, trying to take over the universe, trying to steal the recipe for the Krabby Patty. Like they're so cartoonishly ghoulish. The things that they say and do are just out of control, and they have no insight. They have no self-reflection. They have no one around them like tapping them on the shoulder saying, hey, chill out. I mean, the big E has his daughter Vivian, but he's ignoring her. In fact, he's trying to make the world a very dangerous place for her and people like her. And it already is a dangerous place for her and people like her, because if you don't know, Vivian is his daughter who was born a male. I went over his 14 kids last week in one of my last videos, maybe Friday. His oldest child, whose name was Xavier, rest in peace. Xavier passed away when he was 4 months old, passed away from SIDS. And that's just the craziest, most tragic thing in the world. And then him and his wife, that was the first wife. Her last name is Wilson. I'm forgetting her first name. You guys probably know. But they went on to have another 5 boys. So they had half a dozen boys altogether. And Vivian has come out publicly and stated that she believes that her father utilized gender-specific in vitro fertilization, because Vivian is one of 2 twins. And then I want to say that the next 3 are triplets, but I could be wrong. The triplets might be one of the other sets of kids from one of the other baby mamas. I have it in my notes, but I don't feel like searching for it. You know how that is. Anyway, Vivian and her twin are 20 right now. So I think if Xavier hadn't passed away, I think he would be 22. And Vivian I think she did a gender reassignment when she was 18. I know that she's trans and that she did some major transitional stuff when she was 18 that she had to get parental consent for. And she's very outspoken and she's very sharp. She wants nothing to do with her biological father, who is extremely unsupportive psychologically and emotionally and hurtful. And she's just blown away that she keeps finding out she's got all these half siblings all over the world, because she's not getting notice any earlier than the rest of us are getting notice. Like, she's finding out about it in mainstream media and social media. Like, oh, look at that, another brother, another sister. You know, she's pretty disgusted. She's just like, there's 14 that we know of. Like, how many are there that are more secrets or surprises or what have you? Yes, I loved the X-Files. My husband and I watched that together too. Oh my goodness, did we all have a crush on David Duchovny? He was so cute. And then I think all the men in the world had a crush on Gillian Anderson. And man, that chemistry between those two on camera was significant. Gillian Anderson ended up marrying and having a child with the cameraman. So, you know, he was absorbing all that chemistry and he benefited from it, I guess. And then David Duchovny married Taya Leone. And I think things ended tragically with that. He was like cheating on her and addicted to cheating, and unfortunate, very unfortunate. But yeah, they've done like a new X-Files. I've never watched it because like you cannot replace those two. Not for a second. Not even. Hello, Mrs. Amir. Hello, hello. Kylie talk. Yes, 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 Fred. Thank you. Let's do it. Let me just read the rest of the comments here and then talk some more Kylie talk, because I've got something to say about the Doge guy. Not Doge like doggy in politics, but that other Doge guy in Kylie Rodney's case, the one that interviewed Scammy. Oh, it makes my head hurt just thinking about him. I can't stand him. He's so disgusting. Pretty sure he's still on YouTube. Anybody else would have gotten not only kicked off of YouTube, but probably arrested for the stuff that he said on his channel 6 weeks before she passed away. So that's what I want to talk about. But let me stay caught up with you guys. Suspicious cases of deceased. Fred. Yes. Are you saying we should discuss Kylie? Yes. Yeah. And I had said a few minutes back that I wanted to talk about her next too, because I love talking about Kylie and I think she needs to be talked about. Her case needs to be kept alive and active until there's true justice. And I fully believe that there's been zero justice. There's been negative justice for Kylie. And that's not acceptable. Not to mention her little brother, who, she would be like 19 if she were alive still. And her little brother was 8 when she passed. So he's like 10 now, 10 or 11 maybe. Growing up in a world like that, like that's going to make that kid crazy, not knowing what happened to his sister. My husband didn't like Gillian Anderson because she never believed what was happening. You know, I didn't think she was that pretty, but I know a lot of people did. And I understood why people had a thing for her. I mean, it was a cute little ginger, and she was very little. She was like 5'1" maybe, because they had to have somebody short because Duchovny's only like 5'6" or 5'7", and they had to make him look like he was 6 feet tall because, you know, he's an FBI agent. And he's a dude. Yeah, that's exactly who I mean, Christine. Exactly, Fred. And yeah, that channel. Ugh. The name of his channel always makes me think of that disgusting Kevin Spacey movie. Oh, what was the name of it? It was about like the dad who consummated a relationship with his kid's friend that was 16 years old. It was called like American Dream or something like that. American Sweetheart. What was the name of that movie? It wasn't American Pie, but it was around the same time. It was a disgusting movie. And that was before we knew how disgusting Kevin Spacey was. But that movie was so gross. And the name of that content creator's channel always makes me think of that. If you guys aren't going to tell me, I'm going to ask Google. The American Beauty. I was thinking like American Wet Dream. Sorry. Trigger warning. Yeah, American Beauty. So the name of that channel is very similar to that. And the things that he said 6 weeks, like 6 weeks to the day before she passed away in his chat. And I think he said it out loud. Yeah, he did. He said it out loud. He used the N-word for a disgusting fetish with people who have gone to the other side. And he used the P word for a very disgusting, they're both illegal, the thing with children, the P word. So he said that he's both of those things. He said this in a late night chat. And then it was in the chat that was deleted, but Ryan Upchurch had the screenshots where it said we can gang, and a word that rhymes with that starts with a B, grape her. And it didn't say who the her was. And then 6 weeks later, Kylie's gone. And I did find out from Shan that the slip number at the Boca campground that was in question was slip number 6, the one that the camp ranger was so creeped out by and quit over. So I don't know if it's related to Kylie's case or not, but it seems entirely possible, the timing of it, that she could have been at that campsite, in campsite number 6. So let's see, where was I? TD is a total creep, in my opinion. Right. And it was weird that MC Ultra had a connection to Licked Me with a letter rearranged off of it, like Pig Latin. And she thought that Scammy was going to get interviewed by Licked Me channel. But then Scammy ended up with the dodgy guy. And so that kind of connects those two. So MC Ultra had a connection to the Licked Me guy. And then Zanime had a connection to the Licked Me guy. That's where she made her little debut, when she came on live to try to gaslight everybody and poo-poo anything other than the narrative that she was trying to sell. And she was a fixer. She was definitely a fixer, just like SF was definitely a fixer, in my opinion. And yeah, they're all creeps. I don't like how they wiped her from the yearbook and everywhere. I know. It's so disgusting. Yes, I remember that disgusting movie, American Dream Catcher. So yeah, that's why it reminds me so much of it, because it's got the same 2 words as that movie. I think it's Chaser, isn't it? I think it's Dream Chaser. Either way, it's just gross, because he's probably referring to that movie. And again, that's a 16-year-old in the movie. I forget the actress who played that. It should be right here. Horrible. Mina Suvari. And we all know that Mina Suvari, so she played the 16-year-old. She was one of Weinstein's victims. Was he the producer of this movie? Was this a Harvey Weinstein movie? Because she was a cheerleader. Oh man, I hope this wasn't a Harvey Weinstein movie, but it easily could have been. Written by Alan Ball, directed by Sam Mendes, and then, but produced by Bruce Cohen and Dan Jinks. Okay, so it doesn't have that dirtbag involved directly in it. Ugh. So disgusting. Yeah, not a Weinstein movie, but we got to remember too that the little T made those comments about Weinstein not too long ago, how he got schlonged and that he was like a big, rich and powerful, successful guy. He shouldn't have gotten schlonged the way he did. And it's like, he's a disgusting piece of crap rapist. And he got schlonged because of all of his freaking schlonging, douche. And it doesn't matter if you're rich and powerful. That's the whole point of things like Larry Nassar, the gymnastics doctor, or Jeffrey Epstein, little T's old BFF, or Weinstein, or Diddy. But it really scared me that he was going to try to give a pardon to Harvey Weinstein. And I've always been scared that he'll give a pardon to Sean Combs. And that he'd give a pardon to the other guy, the one who married Aaliyah, R. Kelly. But those two are not white, the last two that I mentioned. So maybe he would not give them pardons because being white is a really big thing to this administration. It's really, really driven by that type of supremacy. Straight up. So yeah, they wiped Kylie from the yearbook and everywhere. It's, in my opinion, it's because they're trying to protect Scammy, and Scammy was jealous of her, and she basically wanted to be her, and she sort of became her, sort of like in that really, really good and creepy movie, The Talented Mr. Ripley. Terrible. I remember that video from Tony TD. Yeah, Christine. Yeah. And again, we need to thank Ryan Upchurch for having that screenshot. Like, how did Ryan have that screenshot, man? He was on it. Maybe somebody sent it to him. I don't know. But still, he's most likely still dealing with the suit that was filed against him by Kylie's dad and grandfather. And that's probably why, because he really went after TD, he really went after SF, and he really went after Zanime. Oh man, he went after her hard. And she deserved it. Like, they were all just dirtbags. And whatever happened to Charlie, can't think of Charlie's name right now. The guy who was trans, who was hard of hearing, that had cancer, that Zanime said was her friend, that she was visiting when she just happened to be in town with her kayak. And so she went out there looking for Kylie. Thank you, Holderman. Yeah. I think it's with an O, Christine. Charlie Holderman. Whatever happened to Charlie Holderman? I remember seeing him like go across the screen in some of the video footage, maybe some photographs, but specifically I remember from like the day that they were all at ground zero holding hands, getting in that big cult-like circle, and thinking that he looked really creepy and out of place because he looked so much older. And I didn't know that he was trans. I didn't know that he was deaf. He definitely looked really old to be hanging out with these 18-year-olds. But then we come to find out that he was special needs and had been getting cancer treatment, allegedly. But he was friends with Zanime? Like, really? Zanime was friends with him? That's really hard to believe, isn't it? But thank you, Christine, for the name. Yeah, what happened to Charlie? So we had all heard, I think it was about a year and a half ago, that he got into a really bad car accident. Somebody else just died in a freaking car accident, you guys. You're going to freaking die if you haven't heard yet. OMG, OMG, OMG. Sit down if you're not sitting down. This was on Fitz News. I saw it this morning with the whole reopening of the Chris Skinner case. Are you ready? Are you sitting down? I don't want to keep you waiting. The fisherman passed away in a really bad car accident last week, I think. Very, very recently. The fisherman, the one who found Micah's stuff, the one who heard her crying, the one who ran to go buy a lighter and came back in a different car. He died in a bad car accident at an intersection 2 miles from his house. And the person in the other car survived. So I don't know. On Fitz News, they were talking about how there are people who will do that on purpose because they know how to do it, where the person in the other vehicle will almost guaranteed pass away, and that they can almost guarantee that they'll survive. So I don't know. I don't know if somebody was paid to do that. But is that crazy? You hadn't heard? Oh my God, I'm so happy to be the first to bring you the news. So yeah, I don't normally keep up with Fitz News, but when I was like fact checking them, and I know that they're solid, but still I like to fact check anything just to see like, well, who else is talking about this? And of course, the one guy who JP didn't like, that he wouldn't talk to, that guy, he's talking about it. That's the only other one that I know that's talking about it. I don't know if Veronica Jokester might be talking about it yet. But yeah. So Charlie was in a bad car accident, and then he was hospitalized. And then I can't remember if I ever heard if he was released from the hospital or not. But having just survived cancer, and even cancer, when people have cancer, you think, okay, natural causes, but there's poisons that can be given over the course of time to make it look like a person is passing away naturally from cancer. And there's a politician in Utah, a Black woman with the last name Love, who just passed away from a cancer. And I'm like, a Black politician in Utah? They allow that there? I mean, sorry, but I'm just being honest. And so maybe she had cancer. Maybe people liked her because of who she was, and they could have cared less that she was not white. But I would think that that would have upset a lot of people in that state. You know, typically Idaho is the most racist. Utah is way up there. Texas is way up there. What a lot of people don't know is Oregon is way up there. Oregon is one of the most racist states in our country. Highest KKK per capita, second only to Idaho, higher than Texas. People don't know that. People think that I hate Oregon. I lived there for a year. It was disgusting. It's like the land of lawlessness. People think of it as being so liberal, and it's not. I mean, it is, but it attracts all the deep state right wingers, basically, because they can get away with anything there because of the whole like ACLU thing. Well, if they're going to protect these people, then they have to protect the Hitler types too. And I just found out, you guys might already know this, that douchebag's birthday, the one who is responsible for the Holocaust, his birthday is Easter this year. It's the 20th of April. And the whole administration in our government is planning this big like Easter egg roll that's called like Not Your Grandma's Easter egg roll. And they're like making it commercial, and they're trying to make money on it. And it's on Hitler's birthday. And that's the due date of my grandbaby. But, you know, first babies are rarely born on their due date. Most of them are born like 5 to 8 days after their due date, probably at least 80% for anybody who's not familiar with that whole thing. But anyway, I only found out the thing about 420 a couple of days ago because I'd been hearing things, but I wasn't sure what people were talking about. So I looked it up and I'm like, oh no. Oh no, oh no. Let me drink some of my veggie juice since I finished off my coffee, and this is my other drink of health and wellness. I mean, coffee is health and wellness as far as I'm concerned, in case you're wondering. Sherry says, sorry, got a phone call. Will do replayable. Thank you, dear. You're so loyal. How many of us are there right now in the room? There's 8 of us. Lovely. In his opinion, they all wrong. Color, Holderman. Yeah, what happened to Charlie? No way. Wow, didn't know about Oregon. Wow. Yeah, the thing with that group there, I don't even like to say those letters. A lot of people don't realize this, and I wouldn't know it had I not lived there. It's so segregated. It's so crazy. The anarchists are also protected there, the skinheads, and they're racist. They're part of that whole supremacy thing. And there's a college in Grants Pass, Oregon, that is the only college in our country. Actually, correction. In my knowledge, it's the only college in the world where you can get a bachelor's degree in white supremacy. It's in Grants Pass, Oregon. I think there's only 3 colleges where you can study it, where there's coursework in it. But I could be incorrect about that. I would imagine that there's a lot more than that, because you'd want to study that just for, protection from terrorism and such. Anyway, Grants Pass, Oregon. I always got the willies driving through there. If you're driving from, I lived in Olympia, Washington for a long time, and even further north in Washington. But I would take trips sometimes down the West Coast, down to Los Angeles or San Francisco, going through Oregon, and you have to go over the mountains, and you have to stop in Grants Pass because there's like nowhere to stop for food and gas for like hundreds of miles either way in my memory, my recollection. And every time stopping in Grants Pass, I'd get so skeeved out, I couldn't get out of there fast enough, even if I was just stopping for gas and not doing anything else. But there was one time I had a tire explode as I was going through Grants Pass. So we had to get towed off of the freeway and hang out for a couple hours while we got the tire fixed. And I still hadn't lived in Oregon yet, so I still didn't know that information, but I was just like itching to get out of there. I was so uncomfortable, and I didn't know why. Like, I knew it was redneck. And then there's a really funny Grants Pass story that I have to share with you guys about the whole redneck thing. Maybe I'll do that now so I don't forget. And anyway, so we moved to Oregon for a year for my postgraduate studies before we moved to San Francisco. And we thought that we would love Oregon because, it's a very, very pretty state, and you don't have to pay sales tax, which we think, well, that's cool. I'll be able to shop and not pay sales tax. But because there's no sales tax, there's like no money for the schools, no money for the roads, and it's bad. You need sales tax. You need money for your schools. You need money for your roads. But the thing that happened, I've told my viewers many times, we were there during the Tanya Harding incident, the Nancy Kerrigan kneecapping incident. And it was also the same year as Bob Packwood, which, if you don't know who Bob Packwood is, he's the genius who kept very detailed journals of all of his harassment of his employees. He was a politician, and he was a Senator Packwood. And so he got busted by his own journals. Brilliant. This is the kind of brilliant stuff that comes from Oregon in my experience, the year that I lived there. So we had like the skinheads, offing people that weren't white. There was a huge riot incident, like right around the time that we left. There was the Bob Packwood thing before we left. There was the Tanya Harding thing before we left. The day that we left. It was also the day that Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were offed. There was an incident in Grants Pass. It made the cover of the newspaper. So some guys went out into the woods drinking with their bows and arrows, and they were shooting the beer cans off of each other's heads with their bows and arrows. And one of them got trigger warning. One of them got an arrow through his eye socket and made the insane choice out there in the woods to pull that thing out of his eye socket by himself. And he survived. But when I saw that on the cover of the newspaper, I was just like, oh my God, I'm glad we're done with this freaking state. That just said it all. The Grants Pass eyeball thing. I should look that up. I should see if it's made it to the internet, because that was 1994. That was like probably June of 94. So it was like the day before Nicole Brown Simpson. Because, yeah, let me look real quick. I always like to know what I'm talking about. It's nice to know what you're talking about, isn't it? Let's see. June 12th, 94 was the date that she passed away. So it would have been like June 11th, 1994. I'll look that up later, the thing about Grants Pass. The geniuses that were practicing their bow and arrow skills and techniques. Like, it was just unbelievable that he decided to do that. He must have been really drunk. And then the fact that that didn't kill him is a miracle. Absolute miracle. Yeah, Anna B's. What? Any other Kylie comments before you have to go? I want to check mail and check on Maddie's Soto case. Thank you, Fred. I love that you bring it back to that. I really do. I appreciate you very much. So what else about Kylie? Let me look at my notes. I'm sure I have something else written down that was really important to cover. I'm almost positive. Well, I do have this. The tells that you can tell someone is being dishonest when they do their giveaway. My theory is with El Presidente, when he does his accordion hands, it's because he's ready to tell you a big fat lie, that he's really trying to hit home and make you think that he's really important and that he's really dramatic and blah, blah, blah. With Scammy in the Kylie Rodney case, I think that when she blinks, when she flips her hair, and when she smiles, that's when you know she's lying. And she's being very smug. That's something those two have in common, the smugness. The smugness is just like off the scales smug. So, watch for those things. There was a friend of mine who taught me that skill of trying to figure out each liar's tell signs. And in my opinion, it works. What she looks to the sky to. Oh, yeah, Fred, you're awesome. Thank you, dude. Totally. Yeah, when she looks up. So, yeah, she's pretty much always flipping her hairs, batting her eyelashes, flipping her hair, batting her eyelashes, smiling, or looking up. I mean, is she ever not doing one of those things? I like to say with people like Scammy, they're lying when their lips are moving. Funny, not funny. But what's so tragic is the destruction that girl has done. How many people in that town are so traumatized and too scared to make a noise, because anybody who complains will be the first to go. It was frightening when they were trying to get people to come talk to her, trying to get people to come talk to the therapists on site if they saw something gruesome, because I think that my viewers and I would all agree that they weren't doing anything other than trying to find out who knew what, so they knew who they needed to keep an eye on, who they needed to control, who they needed to threaten or intimidate, right? And it's like anybody that they can't pay off or just threaten and intimidate, then they have to off them, right? I mean, who knows if Trinity Bacchus or Dante Del Toro knew something about Kylie. Who knows? And I want to mention that Truth Seeker just dropped a nice 6-minute video, I think yesterday, over the weekend. Yeah. I like that content creators work so much. They take a lot of creative liberties, and I love that. I think that that's appropriate. It's an art form. So I fully support that. And I don't think that they're trying to say that what they say is true and accurate. I believe that they're saying these could be possibilities of what happened. So, I think with everything, we need to take it with a grain of salt, even, of course, the things that come from the quote unquote officials, especially when we know that they're crooked officials, right? So what else? Anything else about Kylie that anybody wants to say before Fred has to go do his mail and Maddie Soto? Oh, you guys are welcome to say anything about the Maddie Soto case you want, but I just can't. I keep an eye on thumbnails of some of the content creators that I like that follow that case closely. Like I know Ninja has done a phenomenal job with that case specifically. She's done a phenomenal job with Kylie as well. And I respect her so much for that. And I'm so glad that she does have the stomach for it, or that she can manage, because Maddie deserves that. And I just can't. I just want to cry just thinking about it. I get so angry. That little girl, she was 12. She was 13 for a day when that MF, or those MFs, if it was both of them, the mom and the disgusting freak dude, when her freaking birthday, I think it was maybe a day or two after her birthday, but it was the day of her birthday party, right after her birthday party. And even though she was sad that not that many friends showed up and that her mom wasn't there, you can tell she was still having a good time in the photograph. She's got her pretty dress on and she's at her grandma's nice place, and there's cake and candles and presents and stuff. She's the only one I listen to. Ninja. Yeah. I'm glad that there's a lot of people paying attention to her case, but I just can't. I did for a little while, and then I just have to look away because I'm just ready to vomit. Yes, right after her birthday party. I know. Oh, and I think I kind of dropped off with the discovery. For me, it was my discovery. I know it was in the case and other people already knew about her Crocs, that one of the Crocs was in the plastic garbage bag with her laptop and her backpack, and the other Croc was on her mother's dresser. Is that right? You guys probably know. He's so gross, Anna. Yeah. Ninja is so mad at Unaliver. He only complains about how bad the prison is and constantly milks his parents for money and books. That reminds me of Casey Anthony. I mean, that's the way narcissists are. They only care about themselves. They always play the victim. It's disgusting. It's so disgusting. in mom's floor in a shoe pile. Thank you, Fred. So one of her Crocs was in the garbage bag with her backpack and her laptop. And Steven Stearns ditched that in a dumpster the morning after, right? And then the other freaking Croc was at the house on the floor. And, you know, for that, we can thank them that they failed to notice the Croc in Jen's room. Oh, I did see something about how folks were saying that Jen Soto had all these PPE loans, like illegal PPE loans, but that was other Jen Sotos, that there's like a lot of Jen Sotos apparently. And some of the content creators, it might have been Ninja, were really upset that people kept not doing their homework and kept saying that it was her. And I think it was Ninja that was really upset with another content creator about some other stuff too. It might have been that. Yeah, it was Ninja, because I asked in the comments, I asked her to email me and tell me who she was talking about. If you guys know, you can say it here, it's safe. Or you could email me at JusticeAtooZ@gmail.com. Because I do like to know. You know, I don't always agree with somebody, but I like to just have the information of who's doing what. And I'm not trying to like trash any content creators. You know, when I mention content creators that I like or don't like, that changes over time. So just because I like them now, it doesn't mean that they're all good. It means that what I've seen is good. And then, you know, I might be embarrassed later when I find out that I think they're scum. And I'm like, oh, and I really held them up high for a while, recommended them to my viewers. But you know, it's very fluid. So when I don't like a content creator, I know that sometimes they can win me over too. So I really take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it's YouTube, right? We got to take everything with a grain of salt, because for all we know, all of these cases are just a bunch of fake facts. I mean, it's entirely possible. I don't think it's accurate, but I think it's good to just always keep an open mind. A dumpster in the apartment complex, and there was a camera that caught it all. What a brilliant genius. A dumpster in the apartment complex. Again, for that we can thank him. What a dumb F. I mean, not that you'd expect anything more from somebody so disgusting. Give me more information of what Ninja said. I might remember. It was just this last week, Annabise. If you look through some of her, I'll look. One sec. And yeah, Fred might know too. I think Jen had a major part in the unaliving too. Court should be interesting unless he takes a plea. He probably will take a plea. And it's been my opinion all along that she was probably preggers. And that, you know, the courts, they keep a lot of information hidden, even in a trial where like everything is out. You never know everything. And I think that something like a child being pregnant, that they would just think that's too much information for the public to be able to digest. Pregnant with her mother's ex-boyfriend's baby. Disgusting. And that the mother had something to do with it. Oh my goodness. So here, let me look at Ninja's account, Ninja's content, and then I'll just read it to you so you can see what it is if you know and want to say it here or email me. I mean, I would like to respect Ninja's idea of keeping it on the down low. And Ninja Chihuahua, you know, you have to type in Kylie Rodney too to get the to get their channel. That's how it was with JusticeAtooZ. If you didn't type in Kylie Rodney, it would just give you all this Arizona stuff, all this court stuff. There's a few channels like that. And did it even bring it up? It didn't. Even with typing in Ninja. So Ninja's being shadow banned big time. Because I typed in Ninja Chihuahua and Kylie Rodney. OMG. OMG. And I'm also subbed to her, and it's still not pulling her up. That is crazier than crazy. Oh, well, didn't she change her name to like Ninchi or something? Let me see if that helps. No, I'm not getting it. Ninchi. Okay, yeah. And I didn't spell it right, so I'm going to try it again. Ninchi. Let's see if that does it. I bet it will. Yes, that did it. So I'm going to go to her channel.
The health food allowance card is
every day I'm like, I need to get my upgrade so I don't have to deal with ads anymore. I need to do that today. Okay. So go to her page and go to her posts. And this was 4 days ago. Okay. It was about that. And she was, okay. Yeah, I think it was about that. I think it was her last community post from 4 days ago, which really is 5 days ago because YouTube, they always try to make things seem more current than they are. To all those people who are willing to jump on the bandwagon and report those fraudulent loans without doing your due diligence and discovering that none of those 7 PPE loans were taken out by Jennifer Lisette Soto, mother of Maddie, shame on you. You know nothing about these other Jennifer Sotos and have no idea of the potential negative impact of your actions on these women. To those creators who sit back and allow this to happen without speaking up on behalf of these innocent people, shame on you for valuing your subscribers' count over the need to protect innocent people from baseless claims. Proof that this Jen Soto did not take out PPE loans, and there's a link there. And then this is the part I was talking about. And to the creator who, despite being shown that her allegations are entirely false, has posted a new video pushing these claims and encouraging people to report these innocent women whose only sin is sharing a name with one of the worst mothers in America. I'd like to say worst mothers in history. You have shown your true colors. Stop claiming to be here for the victims while you count the views on this latest video and anticipate how much money it will earn you. Enjoy your new roof, because today, rather than working on a new video, I will be spending my time tracking down every one of those other Jennifer Sotos and informing them as to why they are quite possibly being investigated for fraud, so that should any of them have been negatively impacted by your actions, they will know where to send their lawyers. Wow, she's gotten 55 comments. That's a lot for a community post. And I'll read through them, because the other day when I read through them, there was just a small handful. And it's always good to read through comments. You get a much better idea of what's going on. So yeah, Laura 3796 says that one creator that pushed that was true in the type that gives YouTube creators a bad name. I tried to tell her it wasn't true, but her mod gave her the information. And then, yeah. So yeah, I just want to know what channel it is, so I know that they're doing that kind of crap. If, and GH, if you wouldn't mind emailing to me what that stands for, Annabise, I'm not sure that my brain will come up with it. Let's see. Email the prefix about true crime. Oh, or Google about true crime. You mean, let me see if I type that into my search engine. But yeah, there's a lot of people that think that true crime content creators are just out there to capitalize on people's trauma, and that they don't care if they make it worse. And I don't think, in my opinion, that's not what the true crime genre is. And I certainly don't watch channels that are like that. But yeah, I'll have to look it up later. I'm not finding it. But this channel, this guy is new to me. His content is called True Crime Stories, Tie Knots, TYNOTTS. He is where I learned about that young woman whose name, she's Australian, and her name is Elle Warner, I believe, Elle Warner. And she was 20 years old. She was, I believe, red-rummed in not Madagascar, but Mozambique. I think I'm saying it right, Mozambique. So she was from Australia. She was a college student. She was interested in marine biology. This was like 14 years ago, I think. It was a while ago. And I started to talk about her case a few weeks ago, but then got distracted by a bunch of other stuff. So maybe I'll get back to it, because Elle Warner, if I'm saying her name right, if that is indeed her name, let's see, I'll look her up. Her case, I think, has a lot of similarities. Maybe it's Ella Warner, and I might be getting the last name. It's Warren, Ella Warren, I think. Is that right? No. Let me see. The Australian. And the father just got the case reopened. So here it is, Mozambique, Ellie Warren, ELLY. So yeah, this one is the tie knots one. I'll put a link to it in the description. It just gives a good overview, and it's just 4 months old. So he did that right after the father got the case reopened. And what year was it that it happened? Still seeking justice. What year was it? The father just won't give up. Won't give up. So I just want to figure out what year it was that the crime happened. But, you know, the law enforcement said that there was no signs of trauma or assault, and that was a straight up lie. She was totally violated and bruised. Oh my goodness, there's the cutest picture of her here holding what looks like a lemur. So what year was it? Let's see. I don't know that I'm gonna get the year. Dang it. Sorry, you guys. You know how I am. I can't give up. Can't give up. Okay. I'm going to get that year. I'm going to get that year. Or if you guys get it first, you can put it in the chat. So it was 2016 that it happened. So 9 years ago. So she'd be 29 now if she hadn't been red-rummed. Yeah, because this article from December 14th of 2023 says, after 7 years, Ellie Warren's family still fighting for answers. So here you go. This is July 28th, 2024. I'll put a link to this in the description too. The Daily Mail, Mozambique Red Rum, how Ellie Warren's dad hired a ex-worker to identify, I think I read this before, to identify the gang member that did it. Yeah, to identify the prime suspect in Aussie tourists unaliving. So the father hired a adult entertainment employee to find out, and allegedly it was not only a gang member but like the top dog. So I think that we're dealing with something similar in Truckee, and that Shan and Billy Darling and a couple others, Craney probably, have always called out the fact about the whole RICO laws and how that's what's going on in Kylie's case. It's like gang type of stuff. And it's the same thing going on. This might sound crazy, you guys, but it's the same thing going on in Washington, D.C. right now with our government. That is what a lot of attorneys are looking at, is RICO types of cases against these ghoulish, cartoonish clowns that are being appointed to these positions, like Pam Bondi. I mean, she's not as ghoulish and ugly as the rest of them, but she is ghoulish and ugly on the inside, just like the rest of them. They don't care about anything except protecting liars, cheaters, and thieves, and just protecting these criminals in their criminal enterprise. And it's an entire criminal enterprise. And then to think that they're trying to turn the Easter egg roll into a corporate enterprise, it's another criminal enterprise. And in the past, I don't know if it was illegal to do that, or it's just like it wouldn't have even been thought of. And one politician in the know said that in his day, that would have been vetoed immediately, like within seconds, the idea of turning the Easter egg roll into commercial corporate profit. I mean, this administration is just trying to profit every which way. Like the corporate sponsorships that they're looking for the Easter egg roll are only like 75,000 to 200,000, I think, in the information that I looked at. But it's like, first of all, where's that money going to? And why do you need the little tiny pocket change money when you're dealing with all these bazillions and trillions and gazillions of dollars? It's crazy. It's outrageous and insane. And it's just unbelievable. Like, why we're even having this conversation. Like, why is the head of Doge balancing silverware on his finger? Why is that an event over the weekend? So, I always get concerned as the weekend rolls around, like, oh no, what stupid crap's going to happen this weekend? Because it seems like that's when they try to pull all their fast moves. And I thought, as the weekend was passing, I was like, oh, it's been pretty quiet, huh? And then, the stupid silverware thing, I don't think I found out about that really until yesterday, maybe the day before. But then I didn't find out about the attorney being deceased. I didn't find that out until yesterday. And so then I was like, oh, interesting, the timing, while all of the pack rats are up there at the Bedminster, hanging out on the grounds where Ivana's buried. And how many of them even know that she's buried right there? And why in the world is she buried right there? Like, I figure part of it is for tax purposes, because I think if you have like a cemetery on your property, that you're like tax exempt or something. And these people don't pay any taxes. The our El Presidente doesn't pay taxes. The Big E doesn't pay taxes. You know, that information should be transparent. It is with all other administrations. Also, the medical records are transparent with all other presidents in our country. And we don't even have medical records from when he injured his ear and then stuck a maxi pad on it. But all of those MAGA people went to his conventions or his rallies with maxi pads on their ears, in case you missed it. They were literally putting maxi pads on their ears in support of their dear leader. The whole thing was so stupid. And then he's like, yeah, it was right there on the lobe. It healed real quick. It's like, really? You think that's your lobe, huh? Okay. Yikes. And this is the guy who's got control over a nuclear holocaust. Oh, it was great. Yikes. But you read that it said she in the comments, so now I'm not sure. But GH threatens his audience to give him money or he's going to stop the live. Well, that would be nice if he stopped his lives, wouldn't it? Yeah, I know. I referred you guys to a channel called Bad Actors of YouTube that I think they invented their channel just to call him out. And it's pretty funny. One of the first videos that I saw was like, watch this content creator hold his audience hostage for $11. I gotta go later, Fred. Goodbye. Thanks for hanging. And yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to say, I think I'll wrap up too. We're going on, wow, 2 hours and 11 minutes. They're so ridiculous. So yeah, I hope everybody has a really good day, and drink your water, eat your protein, eat your fruits and veggies, and never stop asking the right questions and seeking truth to power. Thanks so much for watching. I'll give you guys a second before I hit the end stream button in case there's anything anybody wants to throw up there on the live chat. I didn't mean like throwing up, like vomiting. You know that. All right. Love and light, you guys. Have a great rest of your day and see you soon, hopefully tomorrow.